The world of Ethel was woven from starlight and dreams. Not just metaphorically, but truly. Every leaf in the whispering glade hummed with a faint inner luminescence. Every pebble on the path to the sun-kissed peaks held a sparkle like captured frost. The very air shimmered with motes of captured cosmic dust, visible only to the most attentive eye, drifting like silent, golden snow. Elara had such an eye. She lived in a small, cozy cottage nestled amongst the ancient, gnarled willow whisper trees, their branches always swaying as if murmuring ancient secrets. Her days were spent tending a garden where moon-petal flowers bloomed with a soft, steady glow, and sun vines coiled upwards, their fruit tasting of warm daylight. But her true joy, her quiet passion, was watching the sky. From her window, carved from a single smoothly polished moonwood slab, she would observe the slow, majestic dance of the constellations. Not the distant pinprick lights that others knew, but vast, swirling tapestries of light, each star a jewel, each nebula a brushstroke of cosmic paint. For in Ethel, starlight was not merely a distant glow. It was the very essence of life, the thread from which reality was spun. It flowed through the rivers, energized the soil, and gave magic to the creatures that called Ethel home. The most skilled of Ethel's people, the ancient order of the Starlight Weavers, could even draw the light down, shaping it into tools, healing balms, or luminous works of art. Elara was not a starlight weaver, not yet. She was just Elara, a girl of 17 summers, with hair the color of twilight shadows and eyes that held the deep reflective pools of a forest at dusk. But she felt the starlight, deep in her bones, a gentle thrumming that was as natural as her own heartbeat. She could sense its subtle shifts, its quiet melodies. And lately, the melody had been faltering. It began subtly, a whisper of disharmony in the grand symphony of the night. The moon petals in her garden seemed a shade less bright, their luminous petals curling inwards just a fraction. The sun-kissed peaks, usually crowned with a perpetual, gentle aurora, now sometimes appeared as stark, dark silhouettes against the twilight sky. The air, once thick with shimmering dust, now felt thinner, clearer, almost too clear. One evening, as the twin moons of Ethel, Lyra and Solara, began their ascent, Elara sat by her window, a cup of warm, honey-scented dream tea cradled in her hands. Lumina, her companion, a creature of pure condensed starlight in the form of a tiny iridescent moth, flitted restlessly around her head. Lumina wasn't just any moth. Her wings were a miniature galaxy, constantly shifting with nebula-like patterns, and she communicated not with words, but with gentle pulses of light and warmth. Tonight, Lumina's pulses were urgent, agitated. Her usually vibrant wings seemed a little dimmer, her flitting movements more erratic. "What is it, Lumina?" Elara whispered, reaching out a finger for the moth to land on. Lumina settled, her tiny legs tickling Elara's skin. She pulsed a frantic, cold light, then pointed a delicate antenna towards the sky. The sky. It was undeniably beautiful still, vast and profound, but something was profoundly wrong. The constellations, usually a vibrant, interconnected network, now seemed disconnected. The threads of light that usually linked star to star, weaving them into stories and patterns, were fraying. Some had vanished altogether, leaving gaping, dark chasms in the celestial tapestry. The familiar Starlight River, a milky ribbon of concentrated stardust that flowed across the heavens, appeared thinner, its currents slower, almost stagnant. A chill, not of the air but of the soul, settled over Elara. This wasn't just a slight dimming, this was a tearing, a fading of the very fabric of their world. She remembered the old stories, the warnings passed down through generations of the Starlight Weavers. If the Starlight Song ever falls silent, Ethel will forget its dreams. Its colors will drain, its magic will sleep, and its heart will turn to stone. She had always thought these were just cautionary tales, poetic exaggerations. But looking at the fading sky, she felt a dread certainty. The Starlight Song, the very hum of creation that permeated Ethel, was indeed falling silent. "We need to do something," Elara murmured, her voice barely a breath. Lumina pulsed agreement, a tiny ember of determination flickering on her wings. But what could she do? She was no starlight weaver, no elder with ancient knowledge. The last true starlight weaver, old Sylvanus, lived deep within the Everglow forest, A place whispered about in hushed tones, where trees grew so tall their leaves brushed the lower stars, and their roots delved into the very core of Athel. No one had seen Sylvanus in decades. Most believed he had passed into the Starlight River himself, becoming one with the cosmos. Yet, a tiny seed of hope, planted by Lumina's unwavering light, began to sprout in Ilara's heart. If anyone knew what was happening, if anyone could help, it would be Sylvanus. She spent the rest of the night packing. A small satchel with dried sunfruit, a flask of spring water, a thick woven cloak against the forest's chill. She polished her father's old starlight lantern, a relic that when lit, cast a soft steady glow fueled by a tiny imprisoned star shard. It wasn't powerful enough to weave light, but it would illuminate her path. As dawn approached, painting the eastern sky with hues of lavender and rose, Ilara stood at her cottage door. The world was still beautiful, but the morning light felt thinner, less vibrant than usual. Even the dew on the grass seemed to sparkle with less enthusiasm. "Ready, Lumina," she whispered. Lumina circled her head once, a miniature, living halo, then darted towards the path leading into the forest. The whispering glade, usually alive with the soft chirps of day sprites and the gentle rustle of wind through luminous leaves, was subdued. The trees seemed to lean in, their ancient boughs heavy with unspoken concerns. The path itself, usually clear and bright, was already beginning to be reclaimed by shadow vines, their tendrils reaching out like sleepy fingers. Ilara followed Lumina, the starlight lantern swinging gently at her side. The forest grew denser quickly. The willow-whisper trees gave way to the towering sky pillars, their trunks so wide it would take 10 children holding hands to encircle one. Their leaves, usually a vibrant emerald shot through with golden veins of captured sunlight, now seemed to hold a duller hue, like polished jade, that had lost its sheen. The air grew heavy, thick with the scent of damp earth and ancient wood. Strange, bioluminescent fungi clung to the tree trunks, glowing with a subdued phosphorescent light that barely pierced the gloom. Ilara relied heavily on her starlight lantern, its soft glow pushing back the encroaching shadows. Hours passed, marked only by the growing ache in her feet and the increasing density of the forest. Lumina, usually so full of energy, now rested often on Ilara's shoulder, her light a steady, comforting pulse against her cheek. "Are we going the right way, Lumina?" Ilara asked, her voice hushed by the forest's silence. Lumina pulsed an affirmative, then pointed her antenna towards a barely discernible path leading deeper into a particularly dense thicket. As they pressed on, Ilara began to notice other signs of the fading starlight song. The stream of shimmering scales, usually teeming with fish whose scales glittered like scattered jewels, was almost still, its waters murky, only a few dull-scaled fish languidly drifting. The sound of the crystalline chimes, wind-blown formations of sparkling rock that usually sang a harmonious tune, was muted, almost silent. The deeper they ventured, the more the forest transformed. The trees became even grander, their bark swirling with intricate patterns that seemed to shift and writhe in the lantern's glow. Roots, thick as ancient serpents, snaked across the forest floor, forcing Ilara to climb and clamber. The light from above, filtered through countless layers of leaves, was now a mere memory. Suddenly, Lumina pulsed a sharp, cold light. She darted forward, then hovered, her tiny form vibrating with excitement. Before them, nestled in a clearing where the trees formed a natural cathedral, stood a dwelling unlike any Ilara had ever seen. It wasn't built of wood or stone, but seemed to have grown organically from the forest itself. A colossal, hollowed-out tree trunk, wider than her cottage, formed the main structure. Its bark was not rough, but smooth and iridescent, catching the faint light and scattering it in rainbow hues. Vines, thick as ropes, hung from its upper reaches, covered in flowers that glowed with an internal, ethereal light, pulsing softly like slow heartbeats. A single, ancient wooden door, intricately carved with symbols of stars and celestial rivers, stood ajar. A faint, almost imperceptible hum emanated from within. "Sylvanus," Ilara breathed, a surge of adrenaline mixing with awe. Pushing the heavy door open, Ilara stepped inside. The air within was warm, filled with the scent of herbs, old parchment, and something else, something clean and electric, like distant thunder or fresh rain. The interior was a cavernous space, lit by countless small luminous orbs that floated gently in the air, each one a miniature, contained star. They cast a soft, shifting light over walls lined with shelves overflowing with scrolls, strange instruments, and jars filled with glowing dusts and liquids. In the center of the chamber, hunched over a large, intricately carved wooden table, sat an old man. He was ancient, his face a roadmap of wrinkles, his long white beard trailing almost to his waist. His eyes, though clouded with age, held a sharp, knowing glint, like polished obsidian. He wore robes woven from dark, star-patterned fabric, and his hands, gnarled and knotty, were tracing patterns on a large, glowing map spread across the table. It was a map of the celestial sphere, but unlike any Elara had seen, it pulsed and shifted, constellations drifting slowly across its surface. This was old Sylvanus, the last of the Starlight Weavers. He looked up as Elara entered, his gaze piercing. "So, the Starlight Song calls out a new voice," he rasped, his voice like rustling leaves. "I had wondered when someone would finally heed its fading melody." Elara, suddenly shy, curtsied awkwardly. "Master Sylvanus," she began, "I am Elara, and this is Lumina." Lumina fluttered from Elara's shoulder to hover before Sylvanus, pulsing a respectful, yet urgent, light. Sylvanus nodded slowly, his eyes fixed on Lumina. "A star moth, a rare and precious guide, she has chosen well." He turned back to Elara, his gaze softening slightly. "You feel it, don't you, child? The silence growing in the heart of Athel?" "Yes, master," Elara replied, her voice gaining strength. "The stars are fading, the threads are breaking, the moon petals dim, the streams are still. What is happening? Can it be fixed?" Sylvanus sighed, a sound like wind through dry reeds. He gestured to the glowing celestial map. "Bite Darcy. See here, Elara. This is the Everweave, the great tapestry of starlight that binds Athel. Each star, each nebula, each cosmic current is a thread, and at its heart, the pulsing core of all magic, is the Starlight Song. It is the hum of creation, the rhythm that sets the universe in motion, the very spark of Athel's light." He pointed a gnarled finger at a swirling vortex of light at the center of the map, which now pulsed erratically, its glow dimming and brightening like a failing heart. For generations, the Starlight Song has been tended by the Starlight Weavers, kept vibrant and clear, but the Weavers have dwindled, the knowledge has faded, and the song, untended, has begun to wane. "But why now?" Elara asked. "Why is it fading so quickly? Now?" Sylvanus leaned back, his eyes distant, as if peering through layers of time. "There are whispers in the ancient texts, tales of a slumbering entity deep within the Starstone Mountains, a creature of immense power, born of forgotten starlight that sleeps for eons. They say its slumber is tied to the strength of the Starlight Song. If the song weakens too much, the creature stirs, and its stirring, its awakening, draws on the very essence of the song, draining it further." "A creature?" Elara felt a shiver run down her spine. This sounded far more dangerous than she had imagined. Not malicious, perhaps, Sylvanus mused, but a force of nature. It is called the Shadow Serpent, for it consumes light, drawing it into itself as it slowly awakens. It is not evil, but its hunger for starlight is absolute. And it is stirring now, Elara. We are running out of time. He looked at her, his dark eyes filled with a heavy gravity. "I am too old, too frail. My own connection to the Everweave is but a whisper now. My hands, once deft at weaving starlight, tremble. But you, Elara, I sense a unique resonance within you. A purity of spirit, a deep connection to the natural flow of starlight that I have not seen in many, many years. The song itself has called you." He reached beneath the table and produced a small, smooth stone. It was obsidian black, polished to a mirror sheen, and set with a single tiny fragment of a fallen star, which pulsed with a faint, internal blue light. "This is a starlight compass. It will not point north or south, but towards the strongest remaining echoes of the Starlight Song, and towards the places where the Everweave can still be mended." He pressed the stone into her hand. It was cool, smooth, and immediately, Elara felt a gentle hum resonate through her palm, a deep, comforting vibration that seemed to align with the fading rhythm of her own heart. Lumina landed on the compass, her own light joining its faint glow, amplifying it slightly. "You must seek out the 3 great weaving points," Sylvanus continued, his voice softer, but no less urgent. Ancient places where the starlight weavers once anchored the everweave to Athel. The first is the whispering stones of Eldoria, deep within the sun-kissed peaks. There, you must find a way to rekindle the echo of dawn, a lost melody that once sung the world awake. The compass will guide you. Elara clutched the compass, its hum a steady reassurance. Her heart pounded with a mix of fear and exhilaration. Here Elara, the quiet girl from the whispering glade, tasked with saving Ethel. It seemed impossible. Yet the fading sky, the quiet forest, and the urgent light of Lumina confirmed the truth of Sylvanus's words. I will go, she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. I will do whatever I can. Sylvanus smiled, a rare, gentle expression that softened his ancient features. Then let the starlight song guide your way, young weaver-to-be. Ethel awaits your courage. With a final encouraging nod, Sylvanus turned back to his glowing map, already tracing new patterns, searching for further clues. Elara, with Lumina fluttering beside her, turned and walked out of the ancient tree dwelling, the starlight compass pulsing faintly in her hand, illuminating the path forward. The forest outside still held its deep gloom, but now, Elara felt a purpose, a warmth spreading through her chest that pushed back the chill. She looked at the starlight compass. It pulsed with a stronger blue light, gently pulling her towards the east, towards the distant, formidable silhouette of the sun-kissed peaks. The journey had just begun. The fate of Ethel, the very dreams of its people, rested on the shoulders of a girl and her star moth. And somewhere, deep beneath the earth, the shadow serpent stirred, its ancient hunger growing, drawing the precious starlight from the world, thread by fading thread. The journey had just begun. The fate of Ethel, the very dreams of its people, rested on the shoulders of a girl and her star moth. And somewhere, deep beneath the earth, the shadow serpent stirred, its ancient hunger growing, drawing the precious starlight from the world, thread by fading thread. Elara adjusted the worn leather strap of her satchel, and pulled her shawl tighter against the growing chill. The starlight compass, nestled in her palm, glowed with a steady, reassuring pulse, tugging her eastward towards the sun-kissed peaks. Their formidable silhouette, a jagged crown against the bruised canvas of the pre-dawn sky, seemed impossibly far. Flick, her star moth companion, fluttered around her head, his wings shedding faint, silvery dust that sparkled for a moment before vanishing. He chirped softly, a sound like tiny chimes, as if sharing her apprehension yet also her resolve. The rolling plains she traversed slowly began to change. The fields of slumbergrass, usually a vibrant violet under the first blush of morning, were now a muted lavender, their dew-kissed tips holding less of the night's magic. The ancient whisper willows, their branches normally swaying with a gentle melodic rustle, stood largely still, their leaves a duller green. The world felt muted, as if a soft veil had been drawn over its vibrant colors, a consequence of the fading starlight. As Elara walked, the path, once a clear game trail, grew fainter, giving way to stretches of uneven ground dotted with clumps of stubborn star thistle. Their usually brilliant blue blossoms, which shimmered like captured fragments of the night sky, were now a pale, almost translucent indigo. She knew that these plants drew their very essence from starlight, and their fading color was a stark reminder of the serpent's insidious work. Days bled into nights, marked by the rhythmic thump of her boots and the steady glow of the compass. She learned to read the subtle shifts in the land, to find shelter in hollowed-out tree trunks, or beneath rocky overhangs before the truly deep chill of night settled. Flick was an invaluable guide, not just in spirit, but in practical ways. He would scout ahead, his tiny starlight illuminating hidden springs or patches of edible lumina moss, which glowed faintly and offered a surprisingly sweet earthy sustenance. One evening, as the twin moons of Ethel, Selene and Luna, rose like pale, indifferent eyes, Elara found herself at the edge of a great, silent forest. The trees here were ancient sentinels, their boughs interwoven so tightly that only slivers of the fading starlight could pierce the canopy. The air grew heavy, thick with the scent of damp earth and something else, something ancient and profound. The starlight compass pulsed more insistently now, pulling her directly into the heart of the woods. "Are you sure, Flick?" she whispered, her voice feeling small in the vast quiet. The star moth landed on her shoulder, brushing her cheek with a delicate antenna, his tiny body vibrating with affirmation. She stepped beneath the canopy, and the world transformed. The silence deepened, broken only by the crunch of leaves under her feet and the distant hoot of an owl. The trees here were unlike any she had seen before. Their bark was a tapestry of silver and gray, etched with swirling patterns that seemed to shift in the gloom. Their leaves, instead of green, were a deep, velvety blue, absorbing what little light filtered through. As she delved deeper, the ground beneath her began to slope upwards. She realized she was not just in a forest, but at the base of the sun-kissed peaks themselves, their foothills cloaked in this mystical wood. The trees grew taller, their branches reaching for the heavens as if yearning for the lost light. Suddenly, Flix zipped ahead, his light brightening. He hovered near a particularly gnarled tree, its trunk wider than Alara was tall. Etched into its bark, almost swallowed by centuries of growth, was a symbol she recognized from old folk tales, a spiraling comet, its tail leaving a trail of stars. It was the mark of the Star Weavers, ancient beings said to have woven the very starlight into Ethel's fabric. The Star Weavers, she breathed, tracing the symbol with a reverent finger. They were supposed to be legends. A faint hum vibrated through the air, seeming to emanate from the tree itself. The patterns on its bark began to glow with a soft internal light, and the blue leaves shimmered. A section of the trunk, previously indistinguishable, slowly receded inwards, revealing a narrow, winding passage. The air within was cool and smelled of petrichor and something sweet, like night-blooming jasmine. The compass practically vibrated in her hand, its blue light intensifying, pulling her into the hidden passage. Taking a deep breath, Ilara stepped into the unknown. The tunnel spiraled downwards, the only light coming from Flick and the compass. The walls were smooth, polished stone, cool to the touch, and inlaid with veins of crystal that caught and amplified Flick's light, creating a dizzying display of shimmering reflections. She walked for what felt like hours, the descent gradual but continuous, until the passage opened into a vast cavern. This was no ordinary cave. It was a cathedral of crystal, its ceiling soaring so high that Flick's light couldn't reach it. Great pillars of amethyst, quartz and emerald rose from the floor, their facets catching and refracting light in a dazzling symphony of color. In the center of the cavern, a pool of water glowed with an ethereal, milky luminescence, casting soft, shifting shadows across the crystalline walls. And by the edge of the pool, hunched over a collection of iridescent stones, was a figure. It was ancient, its form slender and bent with age. Its skin was like polished jade, and its eyes, when they slowly lifted to meet Ilara's, were deep pools of starlight, ancient and knowing. Tufts of silver-blue moss grew on its head and shoulders, and its fingers, long and delicate, were tipped with tiny glowing crystals. This was no human, nor any creature Ilara had ever seen. This was a Star Weaver. "Welcome, Ilara of Ethel." The being's voice was like the rustle of dry leaves and the tinkle of wind chimes, soft yet resonant, echoing in the cavern. "We have awaited your coming." Ilara felt a wave of awe wash over her, mixed with a sudden shyness. She curtsied, remembering her manners. "Forgive my intrusion, Elder. My compass led me here." She held out the starlight compass, which pulsed in harmony with the cavern's light. The Star Weaver nodded slowly, its starlight eyes fixing on the compass. "The heart of Ethel guides true. It led you to the cradle of whispers where the last threads of raw starlight are gathered before they are woven into the world." It gestured to the glowing pool. "Though, as you can see, the wellspring grows dim." Ilara looked at the pool more closely. The milky light, though beautiful, seemed to pulse weakly, occasionally flickering as if struggling to maintain its glow. "The shadow serpent," she whispered. "Indeed," the elder sighed, a sound that seemed to carry the weight of forgotten ages. "Its hunger has grown beyond measure. For millennia it has slumbered, drawing but a gentle sustenance from Athel's dreaming heart. But now it stirs with malevolence, seeking to unravel the very tapestry of light that binds our world." "How can I stop it?" Ilara asked, her voice imbued with a new sense of urgency. The Star Weaver rose, its movements slow and deliberate, graceful despite its age. It moved towards a colossal amethyst pillar, its surface covered in intricate glowing glyphs. "The serpent cannot be slain by blade or spell alone, child. Its essence is woven into the shadow itself, a necessary counterpoint to light, but it can be bound. it can be lulled back into its slumber. It turned back to Ilara. The serpent's heart, its source of power, lies in the deepest chasm beneath the world, where Ethel's core whispers its ancient songs. But its eyes, those are its vulnerability, for its eyes are made of stolen starlight, and through them it sees and draws sustenance. If its eyes can be dimmed, its power will wane, and it can be returned to its dreaming sleep. Dimmed? How? Ilara felt a flicker of hope. Through a specific resonance, the elder explained. The resonance of pure, untainted starlight, focused and amplified. The compass you carry, the heart of Ethel, is a key. But it needs to be awakened further. It needs to absorb the light from the 3 great star weaves, places where starlight was first anchored into Ethel long ago. The 3 great star weaves. Yes, you are in one of them now. The cradle of whispers, here within the sun-kissed peaks. Its light has already begun to awaken your compass. The second lies far to the north, in the crystal spires of Athel, where the mountain peaks pierce the heavens and sing with frozen starlight. And the third is the most perilous. It lies far to the west, in the whispering desert, at the heart of the sunken city of Eldoria, a place long. Ilara's heart sank slightly. The crystal spires to the north, then the whispering desert to the west. This journey was far more vast than she had imagined. The path is long, Ilara, the Starweaver said, as if reading her thoughts. But Ethel's future depends on it. Before you continue, however, there is something you must do here. The serpent's influence has begun to corrupt even this sacred place. The raw starlight in the cradle of whispers is struggling. It needs a song. A song. The elder smiled, a gentle warmth radiating from its ancient eyes. Yes, the purest song. A song from the heart, unburdened by fear or doubt. The Starweavers once sang the world into being, and starlight responds to true harmony. Your heart is pure, Ilara. Lend your voice to the starlight, and help it remember its full strength. Ilara felt a blush creep up her neck. She wasn't a singer. Her voice was plain, meant for quiet conversations and the occasional lullaby she hummed to herself. But the look in the elder's eyes was unwavering. Flick, sensing her hesitation, nudged her cheek with his antenna. She took a deep breath, looking at the glowing pool. The milky light seemed to pulse almost desperately now, fading further with each beat. She closed her eyes, trying to remember the feeling of starlight on a clear night back home in Oakhaven. The calm, the wonder, the sense of endless possibility. She thought of the joy of her little brother Finn when he watched the sky, and the quiet strength of her grandmother's stories. She thought of the dreams of Ethel's people, dreams that were now threatened by the encroaching shadows. A simple melody, one her grandmother used to hum while weaving, came to her. It was a tune of comfort and quiet hope. She began to sing, softly at first, a wordless melody that flowed from her heart. Her voice was clear, if a little shy, and it filled the vast crystal cavern. As her song continued, something wondrous happened. The milky light in the pool began to brighten, not gradually, but with a sudden, vibrant surge. The crystalline pillars around them hummed, their facets catching the intensified glow and refracting it in a kaleidoscope of dazzling colors that danced across the cavern walls. The veins of crystal embedded in the walls pulsed with a deeper light, and even the silver-blue moss on the Starweaver's shoulders seemed to grow more vibrant. Flick zipped around her, his own light flaring brightly, adding to the symphony of illumination. The air itself felt lighter, infused with a renewed sense of magic. Ilara felt a warmth spread through her chest, a connection to the light, to the very essence of Ethel. She sang until her throat was a little hoarse, until the starlight in the pool thrummed with a steady, powerful glow, no longer flickering. When she finally finished, the silence that followed was not empty, but resonant with the lingering echoes of light and song. The Starweaver gave a deep, contented sigh. Magnificent, child. The cradle remembers its song. The raw starlight here is strengthened for now. It looked at the starlight compass in Ilara's hand. The compass was now glowing with a richer, deeper blue, its light more substantial, more confident. The first great starweave has imprinted its essence upon the heart of Ethel. It is now stronger, more attuned. Ilara looked at the compass, feeling its new power. It felt warmer, almost alive in her palm. What now, elder? You must rest, Ilara. The journey ahead is arduous. While you sleep, the cradle will impart ancient knowledge to your dreams, preparing you for the challenges of the crystal spires. Tomorrow, you will begin the next leg of your quest, guided by the compass, towards the frozen north. The Starweaver pointed a slender crystal-tipped finger towards a small alcove in the cavern wall, where a bed of soft, glowing moss seemed to beckon. Ilara, suddenly realizing how weary she was, nodded gratefully. Thank you, Elder, for everything. As she lay down on the surprisingly comfortable moss, Flick snuggled into the crook of her neck, his light a comforting beacon in the vast, glittering space. The Starweaver returned to the pool, its ancient eyes watching the now vibrant starlight, a silent guardian. Sleep came quickly, but it was not an ordinary sleep. Ilara found herself drifting through a tapestry of swirling nebulae and distant galaxies. She saw shimmering peaks reaching into a sky filled with frozen starlight, heard the silent crystalline songs of ancient mountains, and felt the biting cold of the northern winds. She saw tiny creatures, like living jewels, flitting through glacial caves, and learned of the protective ice weavers who guarded the second great starweave. She saw glimpses of danger, of treacherous paths and deceptive mists, but also of quiet strength and enduring beauty. When Ilara awoke, the cavern was still bathed in the gentle glow of the revitalized starlight pool. She felt refreshed, not just physically, but as if her mind had been expanded, filled with new understanding and a quiet sense of purpose. The dreams had been vivid, almost like memories, leaving her with a strange familiarity with the northern lands. You are ready, Ilara, the Starweaver said, turning from the pool. The path to the crystal spires is long, and the air grows thin at their heights. Seek out the glacier's heart, for there the second great starweave resides. Be wary of the whispering winds, for they can lead the unwary astray. And remember the song of your heart, for it is a shield against the encroaching shadows. Ilara stood, her satchel feeling lighter, her spirit resolute. She looked at the starlight compass. It now glowed with a powerful, unwavering blue, its pull to the north undeniable. I will, Elder, thank you. With a final respectful bow, Ilara turned and walked towards the entrance of the cavern. The Starweaver watched her go, a faint hopeful smile playing on its jade-like lips. Flick fluttered ahead, his light leading the way through the winding passage, back into the heart of the sun-kissed peak's foothills. The forest seemed different now. The blue leaves of the ancient trees shimmered with a renewed vitality, and the air felt crisper, imbued with the magic she had helped to rekindle. As she emerged from the hidden passage and made her way through the Starweaver's forest, the world outside felt a little less dim, a little less cold. Her song had done something, however small, to push back the encroaching gloom. As the sun, a pale disk in the sky, began its slow descent, Ilara found herself at the edge of the foothills, looking out towards the vast expanse of Ethel. To the north, far in the distance, she could just make out the faint, shimmering outlines of mountains unlike any she had seen, jagged, ethereal, and kissed not by the sun, but by a cold, brilliant starlight that seemed to gleam even from afar. The crystal spires awaited. The shadow serpent might be stirring, its ancient hunger growing, but Ilara carried a renewed starlight in her heart and a stronger compass in her hand. The journey was far from over, but with each step, Ethel's dreams flickered a little brighter. The air around Ilara shimmered with residual starlight from the Starweaver's farewell, a warmth that lingered against the cool, ancient breath of the forest. Fenris, perched on her shoulder, ruffled his feathers, his large, intelligent eyes fixed on the distant, glittering peaks. The crystal spires, now a promise and a guide, beckoned with their silent, brilliant song. The path beneath their feet was no longer the soft, mossy earth of the Starweaver's glade, but a faint, shimmering trail that seemed to glow with an inner luminescence, a path only visible to those who carried a spark of starlight in their hearts. It wound its way through groves of trees whose leaves were spun from threads of moonlight, rustling with gentle whispers that were almost like lullabies. These were the Whispering Woods, Fenris communicated, a place where dreams took root and grew into foliage, where the air itself was thick with forgotten stories. Ilara found herself listening, not with her ears, but with her heart. She heard echoes of joy, sorrow, bravery, and quiet hope in the rustling leaves, the creaking branches, and the soft sighs of the wind. Each whisper seemed to add a tiny flicker to the starlight within her, strengthening her resolve. The compass, now pulsing with a steady, gentle glow, guided her unerringly through the verdant labyrinth, its needle a constant beacon towards the northwest, where the spires pierced the sky. Days melted into nights, marked not by the sun, but by the shifting brilliance of the celestial tapestry above. The moon, sometimes a sliver, sometimes a full radiant pearl, cast long, dancing shadows, while constellations wheeled slowly, like cosmic dancers. Elara learned to read the sky as Fenris did, understanding the subtle shifts in the starglow that told her of approaching changes in the magical currents of the land. They ate berries that tasted of summer rain and starlight, and drank from streams that flowed with water so pure it seemed to hum with quiet magic. One evening, as the twin moons, Lumina and Nocturne, cast their silver and amethyst light over the landscape, they arrived at the edge of a vast, shimmering expanse. It was a river, but unlike any Elara had ever seen. Its waters were not clear or blue, but a deep, swirling indigo, threaded with countless pinpricks of light that drifted and spun like captured stars. This was the River of Forgotten Stars, Fenris hooted softly, a place where starlight that had fallen from the sky, or dreams that had been released from hearts, eventually came to rest. There was no bridge, no visible crossing. The river stretched wide and deep, its depths reflecting the entire cosmos in miniature. A chill, faint and fleeting, brushed against Elara's skin, a subtle tightening in her chest that reminded her of the shadow serpent's distant stirrings. It was a warning, a whisper of the growing darkness that sought to claim the very light she carried. She knew she had to cross. "How do we get across, Fenris?" she murmured, her voice soft against the river's gentle murmur. Fenris flew a short distance along the bank, then returned, landing on a gnarled ancient tree root that dipped into the water. He pointed his beak towards a patch of particularly brilliant star motes floating near the opposite bank. "The star skippers," he communicated, his thoughts clear in her mind. "But they only heed the pure of heart, and those who carry a true spark of the heavens." Elara looked. Floating on the river were several large, flat, crystalline platforms, each glowing with an internal light. They seemed to drift aimlessly, yet with a subtle grace. These must be the star skippers. She took a deep breath, the starlight in her heart flaring gently. She knew what she had to do. She stepped to the edge of the river, the indigo waters lapping at her boots. She extended her hand, not physically reaching, but mentally, focusing all her will and the renewed starlight she carried. She closed her eyes, picturing Athel's face, his faint smile, the soft glow of his dreams. She thought of the Star Weaver's wisdom, the kindness of Fenris, the courage she had found within herself. She poured her pure intention, her hope, into the shimmering expanse. Slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, one of the crystalline platforms began to drift towards her. It was larger than the others, its surface shimmering with an intricate pattern of constellations. It nudged gently against the bank, its light pulsing softly, as if inviting her. With a grateful heart, Elara stepped onto the star skipper. Its surface was cool and smooth beneath her feet, vibrating with a low, harmonious hum. Fenris flew to her shoulder, settling there as the platform began to glide silently across the river of forgotten stars. The journey was mesmerizing. Below her, the captured stars danced, creating swirling patterns of light that seemed to tell stories of their own. Above, the real stars mirrored the river's depths, creating a sensation of floating between two endless skies. Halfway across, the current picked up, pulling the star skipper towards a dark, shadowy eddy where the starlight seemed to dim. A cold dread, a familiar whisper of the shadow serpent, slithered into her mind. The air grew heavy, and the star skipper began to slow, its internal light flickering. "Hold fast, Elara," Fenris urged, his voice urgent in her mind. "The serpent's reach is long. Even here, do not let it claim your light." Elara's heart pounded. She felt the chill try to seep into her bones, to extinguish the starlight she nurtured. But she remembered the Star Weaver's words. "Day shadow feeds on fear, but it cannot consume a light that is truly held." She closed her eyes again, not in fear, but in defiance. She focused on the starlight within her, pushing it outwards, not as a weapon, but as a shield of pure, unwavering hope. She pictured Ethel, not fading, but shining brighter. She pictured the crystal spires, radiant and strong. The starlight in her chest flared, a warm, golden pulse that radiated outwards. The star skipper responded, its own light brightening, pushing back against the encroaching shadow. The dark eddy seemed to recoil, the chill receding like mist before the sun. The platform surged forward once more, gliding steadily until it nudged gently against the opposite bank. Elara stepped off, her legs a little shaky, but her heart resolute. The air on this side of the river was crisper, charged with a subtle energy. The path continued, now winding through landscapes that grew increasingly luminous. The trees bore leaves of spun silver, the flowers bloomed with petals of pure light, and even the rocks seemed to glimmer with embedded gems. She was nearing the crystal spires. The ground began a gentle ascent, leading them towards the foothills of the ethereal mountains. The air grew colder, but it was a sweet, clean cold, not the biting chill of the shadow serpent. As they climbed higher, the vegetation thinned, giving way to sparse, glowing moss and small, hardy plants that pulsed with soft internal light. Finally, they reached a plateau, a vast open space at the very base of the crystal spires. Here, the ground was not earth, but a mosaic of smooth, polished stones that reflected the distant starlight with blinding intensity. And standing at the center of this plateau, directly before the immense, shimmering face of the spires, was a figure. It was an ancient being, hunched and gnarled like an old tree, yet radiating an undeniable power. Its skin was the color of deep moss, its limbs like twisting roots, and its eyes, though ancient and clouded, glowed with a soft phosphorescent green. It was adorned with intricate carvings of celestial patterns, and its long, flowing beard seemed to be woven from threads of moonlight and glowing lichen. This was the luminous moss guardian, Fenris communicated, his voice hushed with reverence. The keeper of the gate, the first challenge to those who sought to enter the spires. The guardian slowly raised a hand, its movements stiff but deliberate. Its voice, when it spoke, was like the rustling of ancient leaves, deep and resonant, yet surprisingly gentle. Traveler from afar, with starlight in your heart and hope in your step, what brings you to the threshold of the crystal spires, where the very fabric of existence hums with ancient song? Elara felt a wave of calm wash over her. She knew she had to speak truthfully, from her heart. She explained about Ethel, about the creeping shadow, about the Starweaver's guidance, and her quest to find the cure. She spoke of the dream sickness, the flickering light of her brother's dreams, and her unwavering determination to restore him. The guardian listened, its glowing eyes fixed on her, assessing her spirit. When she finished, a long silence hung in the air, broken only by the faint, crystalline hum of the spires themselves. A noble quest, the guardian finally intoned. But the spires are not a place for the faint of heart, nor for those whose light is easily dimmed. They are a library of whispers, a forge of forgotten magic, a sanctuary of pure creation. To enter, you must prove your worth. You must demonstrate the strength of your inner light, not merely the light you carry. Elara stood tall. I will do whatever is necessary. The guardian nodded slowly. Very well. The spires are a living entity, a symphony of light and sound. To pass, you must understand their language. You must offer a gift, not of material wealth, but of harmony. You must sing the song of unification. Elara blinked. Ah, the song of unification. She had never heard of it. It is the song that binds all things, the guardian explained. The song that echoes the heartbeat of the cosmos, the gentle pulse of starlight, the steady rhythm of a dream. It is a song not of words but of feeling, of intention, of pure harmony. If your inner light is true, you will know it. If not, the spires will remain closed to you. The guardian gestured towards the colossal crystalline face of the mountains. Where a gate might have been, there was only a seamless wall of shimmering crystal, reflecting her own anxious face back at her. The challenge was clear. Elara closed her eyes, trying to quiet her mind. She reached deep within herself, to the starlight that glowed in her chest, the warmth that had been rekindled by the Starweaver. What was the song of unification? It wasn't a melody she knew with her ears. It had to be something deeper. She thought of the whispering woods, the interwoven stories of life. She thought of the river of forgotten stars, where lost lights found peace. She thought of Ethel's dreams, fragile yet persistent. She thought of the universal connection of all things, the way a single star influenced the tide, the way a single act of kindness could ripple outwards. She took a deep breath, and instead of singing with her voice, she began to feel with her heart. She focused on the rhythm of her own breath, the steady beat of her heart, the quiet hum of the starlight within her. She projected these feelings outwards, towards the spires, towards the guardian, towards Fenris, towards the entire world. It was a feeling of interconnectedness, of peace, of deep, abiding love and hope. As she did, a soft ethereal hum began to emanate from her, not from her vocal cords, but from her very being. It was a resonant frequency, a wave of pure harmonious energy. The starlight within her pulsed visibly, sending out gentle ripples of golden light. The luminous moss guardian's eyes widened, glowing brighter. The ground beneath Ilara's feet began to vibrate softly, and the air around her filled with 1,000 tiny crystalline chimes. The crystal spires themselves began to hum, a deep, majestic chord that resonated with Ilara's inner song. The seamless crystal wall before her began to shift, not opening like a door, but dissolving like mist, retreating inwards to reveal a vast shimmering passageway. It was like stepping into a dream, a tunnel of pure, living light, its walls pulsing with soft, iridescent colors. "You have found the harmony, Ilara," the guardian whispered, its voice filled with awe. "The spires recognize your pure heart. Enter, and may your light guide you through the wonders within." With a nod of gratitude to the guardian, Ilara stepped forward, Fenris soaring from her shoulder to circle her head once before settling back. The air inside the spires was cool and crisp, carrying the scent of ozone and something akin to blooming starlight. The passageway was wider than she expected, leading into a series of vast cavernous spaces, all carved from the same brilliant living crystal. The walls shimmered with intricate patterns, not carved, but grown, like natural formations of light. Some sections pulsed with soft bioluminescent glows, casting long, dancing shadows. Others were transparent, revealing glimpses into other parts of the spires, like windows into a kaleidoscope. The floor beneath her feet was smooth and reflective, mirroring the light from above, creating an illusion of walking on air amidst a nebula. There were no artificial lights, only the self-illuminating crystal. Pathways twisted and turned, leading upwards, downwards, and sometimes seeming to defy gravity, curving along the inside of immense crystalline domes. The further she went, the more complex and awe-inspiring the architecture became. Fenris flew ahead, his keen eyes scanning the environment, guiding her through the labyrinthine passages. "These are the crystal veins," he communicated, his thoughts tinged with wonder. "The pathways through the heart of the spires. Every crystal here holds a memory, a thought, a fragment of creation." Ilara reached out, touching a shimmering wall. She felt a faint hum, a resonance that seemed to echo with whispers of ancient magic. It was like touching a living mind, vast and ancient. She could almost feel the flow of energy, the slow, deliberate pulse of the spires themselves. They ascended for what felt like hours, passing through chambers that defied description. One chamber was filled with immense glowing geodes, each containing a miniature, swirling galaxy. Another had walls that projected shifting, three-dimensional images of forgotten constellations and nebulae. Yet another resonated with a soft, continuous melody, like the combined voices of 1,000 unseen choirs. Amidst these wonders, Ilara kept her focus. She knew the beauty was a part of the spire's magic, but she also knew she was here for a specific purpose. The compass in her hand remained steady, its glow leading her ever deeper, ever higher. It was no longer pointing to the spires themselves, but to a specific point, within them, a hidden heart. Suddenly, the passage opened into an immense circular chamber. The ceiling was so high it was lost in a swirling mist of light, and the walls were composed of countless crystalline pillars, each radiating a unique color and intensity. At the very center of the chamber, suspended in the air by unseen forces, was a colossal, multifaceted crystal, pulsing with an inner light so brilliant it hurt Ilara's eyes to look directly at it. This was it, she knew. This was the heart of the crystal spires. The air here thrummed with raw, untamed magic, a pure, concentrated energy that made the starlight in her own chest sing in response. The compass pulsed wildly, its needles spinning for a moment before settling, pointing directly at the colossal crystal. As Ilara approached, she noticed something else. Around the base of the central crystal, scattered amongst smaller glowing formations, were what looked like pedestals. and upon each pedestal lay an object, radiating a faint, magical aura. One held a single, perfectly spherical pearl, shimmering with all the colors of the rainbow. Another held a leaf, spun from threads of pure silver, its surface etched with impossibly intricate patterns. A third held a small, delicate feather, glowing with a soft, ethereal blue. But what caught Ilara's eye was the central pedestal, directly before the colossal crystal. Upon it lay a slender, elegant vial, crafted from crystal, so fine it was almost invisible. And within the vial, swirling gently, was a single drop of liquid light, so brilliant and pure that it seemed to contain the essence of 1,000 suns and stars. It shimmered with an almost blinding intensity, radiating warmth and life. Fenris landed softly on her shoulder, his usually stoic demeanor replaced by a look of profound awe. The dewdrop of the first star, he communicated, his voice a reverent whisper in her mind. The source of all creation, the purest essence of light. It is said to be the cure for any ailment, the bringer of life to that which fades. Ilara felt a surge of hope so powerful it brought tears to her eyes. It was here. The cure for Ethel, the answer to her quest, lay before her. But as she reached out a trembling hand, she hesitated. The air around the dewdrop was charged with an immense power, and a subtle warning echoed in her mind. This was not something to be taken lightly. She looked closer at the other objects on the pedestals. They seemed to be offerings, or perhaps components. Was the dewdrop meant to be combined with something? Or was there a final test, a guardian, a riddle she had yet to face? As if in answer to her unspoken question, a soft, harmonious chord resonated through the chamber, emanating from the colossal central crystal. The light within the crystal intensified, and ethereal patterns began to bloom across its many faces, swirling and shifting like an infinite dance of stars. From within the patterns a voice emerged, not spoken aloud, but perceived directly in Ilara's mind. It was a voice composed of pure light and sound, ancient and infinitely wise. Welcome, child of starlight, to the heart of the spires. You have journeyed far, and proven your worth. The dewdrop of the first star waits. But know this, it is not merely a potion to be consumed. It is a catalyst. Wow. Its power is boundless, but it must be wielded with pure intention, and guided by a love that transcends the ordinary. Ilara listened intently. What must I do? She asked, her voice hushed. The shadow serpent stirs, its hunger growing, seeking to consume the very light that sustains your world. The dewdrop holds the key to restoring balance, to rekindling the fading dreams. But it is not for one. Its power must be shared, its light imbued into something that can carry its essence back to the world. A vessel, pure and true, a conduit for hope. And Ilara looked at the other objects, then back at the dewdrop. A vessel. What could carry such a powerful, pure essence? Her gaze fell upon the compass in her hand, still glowing with the starlight infused by the Starweaver. It had guided her, protected her. It was a conduit for starlight. Your heart knows the truth. The voice of the spires resonated. The vessel must be one that has been touched by hope, guided by starlight, and imbued with the love you carry. Place the dewdrop within the heart of your compass, and let its light become the light of the world once more. Yes. Ilara felt a profound understanding wash over her. It wasn't just about Athel. It was about the balance, about the encroaching shadow. The dewdrop was meant to reignite not just one dream, but to strengthen the very fabric of hope. And her compass, now a stronger beacon, was the perfect vessel. With renewed purpose, she gently reached out and carefully, reverently, took the delicate crystal vial. The dewdrop pulsed in her hand, warm and vibrant. She held the compass, its intricate silver casing glowing softly. She knew, without a doubt, that this was the way. As she prepared to open the compass, a sudden sharp chill pierced the warmth of the chamber. The ethereal patterns on the central crystal flickered, and the harmonious hum of the spires faltered, replaced by a low guttural rumble that seemed to shake the very foundations of the mountain. Fenris squawked, his feathers bristling, his eyes wide with alarm. The shadow serpent, he cried, his mental voice filled with dread. It senses the dewdrop. It comes for the light. The glowing walls of the chamber seemed to darken, the vibrant colors fading, replaced by creeping tendrils of shadow that snaked across the crystalline surfaces. The air grew heavy, oppressive, and the scent of ozone was replaced by a metallic, sickening tang. A distant, booming roar echoed through the spires, growing closer, a sound of ancient hunger and malice. Elara clutched the dewdrop and the compass tightly, her heart pounding. The shadow serpent was here, drawn by the immense power of the dewdrop. Die. She had found the cure, but now she had to protect it. The battle for Ethel's dreams, and perhaps for the very light of their world, was about to begin. The spires trembled, and the roar grew deafening, announcing the arrival of the ancient darkness at their sacred threshold. The air crackled, not with lightning, but with an oppressive chill that seeped into Elara's bones. A chasm ripped open in the air just beyond the spire's highest peak, a tear in the fabric of the night itself. From it uncoiled a creature of impossible scale, a serpent woven from the deepest shadows. Its body was a churning vortex of gloom, studded with eyes that gleamed like shards of frozen starlight, ancient and malevolent. It had no discernible form, shifting and rippling, absorbing the very light around it. The dewdrop pulsed violently in Elara's hand, its gentle luminescence now a frantic, defiant beacon against the encroaching void. The shadow serpent's roar wasn't just sound. It was a wave of pure despair, washing over Elara, threatening to extinguish her courage. She stumbled, momentarily overwhelmed, but her grip on the dewdrop tightened. This was not a creature to be reasoned with, nor one that could be outrun. Its hunger was for the light, for the magic that flowed through Ethel's dreams, and now, for the potent essence of the dewdrop itself. No! Elara cried, her voice small but fierce against the serpent's thunderous presence. She raised the dewdrop, not as a weapon, but as a shield. The pure, unblemished light of the dewdrop flared, pushing back against the tendrils of shadow that snaked towards her. The compass in her other hand spun wildly, its needle quivering, not pointing a direction, but vibrating with a desperate urgency, as if trying to warn her, or perhaps to show her a truth she wasn't seeing. The serpent lashed out, a massive coil of darkness slamming into the base of the spires, sending tremors through the ancient stone. Chunks of crystal rained down, sparkling momentarily before being swallowed by the serpent's shadow. Elara darted back, realizing a direct confrontation was suicide. She remembered the words of the Lumina weavers. Darkness consumes light, but true light reveals darkness for what it truly is, an absence, not a presence. Panishite. Tense. The serpent advanced, its immense form eclipsing the spires, its shadowy maw opening wide. A chilling vacuum formed, sucking at Elara, threatening to pull her into its abyss. She felt her strength waning, the cold seeping deeper. The dewdrop's light, though strong, was beginning to flicker under the relentless assault. She knew it wasn't enough to simply hold the light. She had to use it. But how? The compass, still vibrating, now began to glow faintly with a soft ethereal blue, different from the dewdrop's radiant white. It pulsed, a rhythm like a heartbeat, and its needle, instead of spinning, now pointed downwards towards the very ground beneath her feet. An absence, not a presence. What did that mean? What did that mean? Elara looked down, then back at the dewdrop, then at the compass. The Lumina weavers spoke of the Heartstone, the very core of Athel's world, where all light originated. The spires were built over it, drawing power from it. The shadow serpent sought to extinguish that power. The compass wasn't pointing away from the serpent, but towards the heart of the light itself. A desperate idea sparked in her mind. The dewdrop was a pure concentration of light, a fragment of the world's dream essence. If the serpent fed on the absence of light, perhaps an overwhelming surge of presence could dispel it. But she couldn't just throw the dewdrop at it. That would risk its destruction, and Ethel's last hope. She had to amplify the dewdrop's power, channel it through the source of all light. With a surge of adrenaline, Elara raced towards the central chamber of the spires, guided by the insistent pull of the compass. The shadow serpent roared, sensing her intention, and accelerated its pursuit, its shadowy coils tearing through the ancient stone, sending avalanches of crystal and dust cascading behind it. Inside the spires, winding staircases spiraled downwards, each step echoing with the serpent's destructive advance. The air grew warmer, imbued with a gentle hum, a palpable sense of life and energy. The compass glowed brighter still, urging her onward. Finally she reached a vast cavernous chamber, its ceiling lost in shadow, but its floor dominated by a colossal, pulsating crystal, the Heartstone. It pulsed with a soft golden light, the rhythmic beat of the world's dreams. The shadow serpent, too vast to enter the chamber directly, began to funnel its shadowy essence through the spire's cracks, its malevolent eyes peering in, its darkness seeping like an inky mist towards the Heartstone. It sought to smother it, to plunge the world into eternal night. Elara didn't hesitate. She held the dewdrop high, its pure white light now resonating with the golden glow of the Heartstone. The compass flew from her hand, its blue light merging with the Heartstone's pulse, a silent understanding passing between them. Then, with a deep breath, Elara pressed the dewdrop against the surface of the Heartstone. A blinding flash erupted, not destructive, but transformative. The dewdrop didn't shatter or merge. Instead it acted as a lens, focusing and amplifying the Heartstone's immense power. A wave of pure, concentrated light, golden and white interwoven, surged outwards. It wasn't a physical force, but a wave of a presence of absolute undeniable light. The shadow serpent recoiled with an agonizing shriek. The light was anathema to it, not because it burned, but because it revealed. It revealed the serpent for what it truly was, not a creature of power, but an empty void, a hunger that could only exist where light was absent. As the wave of light washed over its shadowy form, the serpent began to unravel. Its colossal coils dissolved, not into smoke, but into nothingness, like a bad dream dissipating upon waking. The malevolent eyes winked out, one by one, until only the faint scent of ozone remained, and the quiet hum of the Heartstone. The spires, though scarred, still stood. The chasm in the air above them slowly stitched itself closed, leaving behind a sky of serene, star-dusted velvet. Elara, breathless but triumphant, gently lifted the dewdrop from the Heartstone. It glowed softly, its purpose fulfilled, its power still immense but now serene. The compass, which had been absorbed into the Heartstone's glow, reappeared in her hand, its needle now pointing steadily towards Athel's slumbering form, a clear, unwavering path home. Her journey back was swift, borne on a current of relief and renewed hope. The world outside the spires seemed to breathe again, the air lighter, the shadows retreating to their natural, harmless places. She found Ethel exactly where she had left him, nestled in his bed, his face still pale, but the anxious furrow in his brow a little less pronounced. His breathing was shallow, his dreams still troubled, but the terrible pressure that had gripped the world had lifted. With trembling hands Elara held the dewdrop above Ethel's lips. The luminous weavers had said it was the purest essence of dreams, a concentrated drop of joy and wonder. As she tilted it, a single radiant drop detached itself and hovered for a moment, shimmering like a tiny star, before gently descending onto Ethel's tongue. Ethel stirred. A soft sigh escaped his lips, a sound of profound peace. The pallor on his face began to recede, replaced by a healthy, rosy glow. His eyelids fluttered, then slowly, hesitantly, opened. His eyes, once shadowed with fear, now sparkled with a clear, innocent light. He blinked, looking around his room, then up at Elara, a small, puzzled smile gracing his lips. "Elara," he whispered, his voice soft and clear, free from the raspy fear that had plagued it. "I had the most wonderful dream." Elara's heart swelled with a joy so profound it brought tears to her eyes. "You did, little one," she murmured, brushing a stray lock of hair from his forehead. "You did." Over the next few days, Ethel slowly regained his strength, his laughter echoing through their home once more. The nightmares were gone, replaced by vibrant, joyful dreams that painted the world with renewed colors. The shadows that had crept into their world receded entirely, replaced by the full, vibrant light of day and the gentle, comforting darkness of night. Elara kept the dewdrop safe, a small, shimmering reminder of her perilous journey and the immense power of hope and courage. The compass, too, she cherished, its needle now resting peacefully, always pointing towards the true north of inner strength and the light within. She taught Ethel about the power of his own dreams, about the light he carried within him, and how it could always chase away any shadow, no matter how big or scary. And every night, as she tucked him into bed, she would tell him tales of brave Ilara, the Lumina weavers, the spires of light, and the Heartstone, reminding him that even the smallest spark of courage could ignite the brightest dawn, and that dreams, when nurtured with love, were the truest guardians of their world's light. As Ethel drifted off to sleep, his dreams were filled with soaring through starlit skies, laughing with friendly dragons, and painting the world in hues of happiness, knowing that he was safe, cherished, and forever surrounded by the unwavering light of love. And in his world, and in hers, the light always, always won.